Plot: C. 2019. Far in a dystopian future, the human race has lost the sense of sight, and society has had to find new ways to interact, build, hunt, and to survive. All of that is challenged when a set of twins is born with sight. 7. The Lavender Road. The Witchfinder searches for his queen with Magra and Boots. Haniwa, Coffin and others are nearing Jerlameril. 8. House of Enlightenment. The twins meet Jerlameril and finally discover the truth. Voiceover off.
When you're blind and watching movies, what will you find? A blind superhero whose superpowers are acting like he's not blind. A sighted actor over dramatically touching people's faces. And maybe the whole joke is that they're bumping into different places. A spectacular, macular generation. From tunnel vision to your television. And do they off this movie with audio descriptions? They're movie buffs who know their stuff. You'll be thoroughly entertained. Join Sky and Melissa throughout film history and Citizen Viking.
Hello.
Hi.
And welcome to CWC, the podcast where we call from different C's we both can't see, yet we still see if we can see why C is considered must-see TV. My name is Sky McLeod.
I'm Melissa Bukta.
And
Oh my God.
I wanted to put as many C's as the episodes of the first season of C, so that's what I did.
I love it.
Thank you.
Perfect.
And today we are finishing up the TV show C. Very exciting to have closed the first season chapter on C today. And we're also we're calling from different coasts almost, except for neither of us are really on the coast.
Yeah, almost. I'm over here sitting in the Midwest. Do they call it the bread basket? The bread basket. I'm in the
Sure.
bread basket.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in northern Wisconsin. Right about now, actually.
Right about now, and you're calling in, so this is the sound quality, so just get used to it. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that bad. I think it'll be fine. But this is where our podcast is like all podcasts have been for the last year or so. So yeah, I'm excited to talk with you and yeah, I'll be I don't know. How do we feel about C? We're done with it now.
We're done. I mean, honestly, I was really worried at first because I was like, we've spent so much time away from it. I thought I was going to have a really hard time jumping back into it. And for the first 20 minutes of the first episode, I was a little itchy and not really kind of sort of had to work hard to pay attention. But honestly, it happens every single time. I just fall right back into the story and the characters. And I was really, especially because these are the last two episodes of the first season, I was really invested, and I wanted to know how things turned out. It's been building, and we've been building it for a year.
I know,
to reach the House of Enlightenment. So I was like, okay, I'm here. I'm still totally invested in the story.
It's really funny. It's interesting. I feel like it's weird in that not a lot happens in
I thought that
the
too.
show. Yeah.
Yeah. Each episode, like you have one or two main things that happen, and then that's it. That's the end of the episode.
Yeah, it's like I was trying to figure out, is it just that it's paced very slowly? I mean, I guess it's like Crip Time. You have a bunch of blind characters, everything takes us a lot longer to do. I mean, I feel like also there's just a lot of like fight scenes take a really long time, and so I think that's probably part of it. Is it spends a lot of time doing fight scenes, and then there's also like, I don't know, I feel like the dialogue can be pretty long to say something pretty simple, but I was like, why does so little happen in the show? Like, it is kind of funny. But we also see the twins, like we see them really grow up in like the show, which I thought was interesting because it's kind of funny that it's like their whole lives up until they're like, I don't know how old they are, but they're like, I imagine in their like 20s or something.
Right. early 20s, probably late
Yeah.
teens, early 20s. But I'm guessing probably like 21, 22, something like that.
Yeah, the actors look a little bit older than that, but it would make sense for the characters to be that age.
Right. Yes, yeah. And as voiceover so terribly explained. I loved it. Can't pronounce any of the names
It cannot
correctly. It's
even remotely.
great.
It's
Fantastic.
really funny. Jurnum Morel. What does it say? I don't know.
How did it say? Yeah. Well, the big thing, and I think we're just gonna kind of meld these two episodes into one,
Yeah.
because it's not necessarily a two-parter, but it's very easy to do.
Yeah, definitely.
I felt like, especially this particular chunk of episodes, I thought, they flow very well one into the other. I guess it's an episodic story, but
yeah,
there's a lot going on as
Yeah.
usual. We have a lot more royal intrigue.
Yeah.
Because finally, after so long, Magra and Queen Kane actually get to meet.
Right, and they and there's sort of because they're sisters, which we found out in our last episode, and Magra kind of left so that Queen Kane could be the queen, because of see, now I'm trying to remember what exactly. I mean, but basically, we kind of have the two of them are reunited, and in the end, which spoilers for the first season of C, they are basically now ruling the kingdom together, but very I think probably reluctantly on both their parts, and there's definitely, that seems like going to be a lot of the conflicts in the second season. It feels like.
Oh yeah, I think it's more going to come from Queen Kane, but yeah, because Magra, wants peace and no more witches, no more witch finders, and I'm sure Queen Kane doesn't want that. So Mok Jun found out that the city was destroyed and that she did it, and for that he paid with his life.
Right. Yeah. It is. It's sad because I was starting to like Mok Jun.
Me too. Actually, I was really sad to see him go. I thought he could have been. I thought there was more story there because his character was kind of sort of turning over a new leaf.
Yeah, it was a real bummer because I was I really wanted him to kill Queen Kane because I was so fucking.
Yeah.
I'm fucking sick of hearing her talk. She's just so fucking annoying. I hate her so much. I was just please just kill her. I don't at one point she's gagged, and I was well, I mean, she's being really abused in this situation, but I'm very glad we don't have to hear her speak because she's terrible. She's just so awful. I hate her so much. She's just she's just so fucking full of herself, and it's, oh my god, there's just some people who really make you want to punch them.
Right,
she's
right.
one of them.
I think that's account of the actress is doing such a great job. You just hate her.
I mean, though, I can't even imagine anyone accepting her as queen. I don't know. I mean, if you had a choice, no.
Right. I think this co-queening thing is going to end very badly, and I think it's going to. Yeah, I think it's going to end up with one or both of them dead.
I hope it's Queen Kane.
It depends. Yes, it depends on how clever and cunning each one of them are going to be. I mean, Magra has Boots on her side.
Well, not really though, because now we have Boots, who can also see, and who is the very just secretly evil, sighted sibling. Yeah, who also told Magra that her entire family is dead, and then told the family that Magra's dead. So
true. He's got lots of balls coming up in the air, and I think next season it's all going to come crashing down. I think he's going to get his to be honest.
I hope so. He was him. Like, I just was like, just kill him. Like, I was so mad. I was like, why are we killing fucking Tamakti June when we could be killing Queen Kane and Boots? Like, they could it's so frustrating how few like of the really shitty characters die, but then they just kill so many characters. I'm just like, at least kill some of the obnoxious people I don't like, because it's not like they're fun to like, they're evil in a fun way. I'm just like, I want you to die. Right. Like, I just don't want to see any more scenes with you in it. Which, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I just don't like how much of the show is like built on people really like very long-term lies that seem like it's just so tiring, because you're like, eventually these people are gonna have to like, they're gonna figure out what's going on. So like, it's not fun because you know that eventually they have to figure it out. So it's kind of like you don't get to like really be in for the ride, because you're just kind of like biding your time until someone figures something out. Like, it feels like it just holds the story back in a lot of ways. I don't know. It's just exhausting. But yeah, I don't know. Like, a lot happens in this, but I also don't really know, like, did it feel like we were really like gearing up towards there was nothing that happened where I was like, whoa. Like, Magra being the queen was more of that, or the princess or whatever she is. Yeah.
No, the first episode. So in this pair, we have the Lavender Road, which is the first one, and then we have the House of Enlightenment, which is the second one. And the Lavender Road, I think, is mostly in comics. You call it like the setup issue. It's set up for what's going to go down at the House of Enlightenment. They're on their journey through the Lavender Road, and they make it to the House of Enlightenment, right? And almost die.
Yeah.
Well, freaking Bowline almost bites it, which I audibly gasped when she got shot. I was really scared. I thought she was going to die.
I was, I was just like, that was another thing where I was like, she's not going to just, because, like, they're sound traps. So if you make any noises, then then an arrow comes down at you, basically.
Right.
And so I was just like, and she's like, I can move very quietly. And I was just like, well, yeah, you can, but there's no way that you're not going to get shot. Like, it's going to have, but it's also going to be like, we have to watch you be quiet for a really long time, and then you're going to get shot. And I was like, that was another thing where I was like, oh, I don't know. I was just like,
we did,
oh gosh, but that is
we
what
did
happened.
get to see. Yeah, but we did get to see more blind deaf sign language, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool. After we've done multiple like blind deaf movies like in the last month, like it was kind of, I was like, oh, it's like a theme recently. Which it is cool because like, yeah, like how could people have private conversations? Like, it is kind of a cool thing, except for they also have the not language, I guess. So
right, and ways. Yeah, that's here too.
Yeah. But yeah, that was, I mean, it does also make you think those kids, they had to learn how to like deaf blind sign, and then they were also learning the not language, and they also learned how to read. So they really, I was just like, wow, they must have like very good linguistic centers in their brain, because they've had to like learn so many different forms of like, also, and obviously they also had to learn English. I don't think
it's so cool because it's like they're bilingual.
Yeah, they're like many-lingual. They're
they're multilingual.
Yeah, it's really, it is kind of, that part's kind of cool. I mean, like, it's, yeah, I'm not, what does the show think in general? This is what I was trying to figure out. What is it trying to say exactly? Do you know?
I think that, because we've always kind of sort of based our trepidation about heading into this show, or at least mine, was, it's just going to be a show about like, oh, seeing is better, obviously, because the plot of this show is not about it's not about the blind characters. It's about these two characters who can see. Yeah. Oh, great. This show is just going to be how great seeing is and how full blindness is. And it actually hasn't been that.
No.
For the most part. And the characters have had discussions about these things mostly Haniwa, Kufun, and Paris, and Baba Vas. But I think finally meeting Jerla Morel and having everything that went down at the House of Enlightenment, that I think is definitely the linchpin of what the show is trying to say.
Like,
because Jerla Morel definitely, well, we get to the House of Enlightenment and we meet him and we find out that he's got some real messed up views.
He's basically running a like a cult
essentially
bunker kind of that's like in a prison, and he's like, which is just like they're in these beautiful like these gorgeous spacious landscapes that are so beautiful to look at and so scenic, and then it's like we have sight, we're going into a prison. Like, why the fuck would any of the sighted people want to be in a prison? That makes no sense at all.
I think therein lies the visual metaphor. I mean, you look at that at Jerla's House of Enlightenment. Yeah, it's an old prison building. Though it's gross and dark and
just like the least appealing sight thing ever.
Yeah. And the rooms that they stay in, like there's only one or two light sources, if that, in the rooms.
But it's like, why? If he's so excited about building a sighted world, why? Why is any of that happening? It doesn't make sense. Because it's like, I think it's the least sighted thing.
Right. I think it's the show's literal way of saying Jerla wants to go. The way he's thinking will take the world back into the Dark Ages, because he's coming from a stance that the sighted people are the new gods. The sighted people are superior to the blind people, and they, sight is better, and with we can do so many things, and we have all of this knowledge and everything, and the blind people are worthless, basically.
Right. I mean, he's basically Hitler. That's his whole thing, is like, basically.
Yeah. I mean, immediately I disliked him when we met him in the first episode. I mean, we find out that basically he's been going around and having sex with all these ladies so he could have all of these children that would have sight.
Right, and then that's like truly what he is doing. Like, now we know that that's actually legitimately his plan, which, I mean, I guess we knew, but it's like we also now know that he really does think sighted people are superior and doesn't want there to be like intermixing of sighted and blind people. He basically wants to create a world for sighted people, and then he wants to like breathe them out of
and then he wants to population. Run it. Yeah. And it's I think that's what the prison represents, the House of Enlightenment, because they're imprisoned by Jerla Morel. They're imprisoned by the way that he thinks. They are so limited. Yes, they have access to knowledge because they have access to books.
Right.
And all of this, all this amazing stuff that is contained therein. But none of it is going to help them right now.
Yeah.
None of it is helping them adapt to the world that they live in. That's what's so cool about the blind characters. No, they can't read Shakespeare. They might never know who Shakespeare is, but they have adapted. But well, you're talking to a theater person, but I get it. Yeah.
But
no, it's okay.
And Braille doesn't exist in this world. Somehow the Braille books were all destroyed for some reason that's still unclear. But yes.
But they've adapted. They have a not language. They have deaf, blind, sign language. Right. They have verbal communications to communicate with each other. They've adapted to learn how to fight and to have a society and to live. I mean, it's messed up, but they have a monarchy, for God's sake. I'm not saying monarchies are the way to go, but
yeah, they have a very feudal system, so it is kind of funny because you're like, the whole time frames don't really make any sense, but like, I guess it's like 500 years we find out in this last episode, I think, that that's been 500 years since people could see. So that's like a very long time, and it is shocking that they haven't been able to grow the population that much more than you would think. In 500 years they could have had a much bigger population. Right.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, there's no evil monster in this that's eating people or anything. But I mean, they are blind, so these tribes probably don't migrate all that often. I mean, we know they migrate to have the festival where they procreate, but
well, yeah, I
that's
mean,
about it.
it's just shocking that they, like, blind people being very, I feel like we tend to be pretty, like, what's the right word? Inventive and coming up with creative solutions. Like, they've kind of done a pretty terrible job in 500 years of really developing a very functional society. I mean, it's extremely dysfunctional. Really, most of the innovations are fighting related, and like they have canes, sort of, like that seems to be the most non-fighting thing, and their canes are usually swords, which I don't think is very effective.
Yeah, Baba Voss definitely uses the sword cane. Tamakti Jun has a knife in his cane.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, exactly. There, which it's also like, why? Where did all of the like technology? Where did the talking clocks and the like and the actual canes go? Like, it is kind of. I mean, I guess maybe they would be like destroyed by now, but it's also like what happened was a disease wiped people out, so infrastructure was not wiped out at all. So the fact that things have grown back is also pretty baffling, because you're like, the infrastructure wouldn't necessarily disappear and you wouldn't have these like vast landscapes. Like, you would at least have some remnants of, and it's like a very big bustling society that just got destroyed, yeah.
Well, we end the second episode looking out over a cityscape. It's not great. It's a burned out cityscape, but it's still a
they
cityscape.
Say that.
So,
I was wondering what that is, basically.
I had to imagine most of it in my head, to be honest. But we end looking out over a city. So I'm guessing there's probably people in that city, but we don't know. We won't know anything until we get the second season. We do know that Haniwa is in the city because Jirla Morel sold her out,
right?
Basically,
at
the House of Enlightenment,
like blind army, right? They to work with him and his sighted people somehow,
right? Well, he sold them not only to them, but he sold them to Baba Voss's brother.
Oh, I forgot that was Baba Voss's brother.
It said very briefly, but I caught that and was like, oh my god, yeah. They say his name, but I didn't catch it. But yeah, they sold him to his brother.
Oh my gosh.
They sold her to his brother.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is weird. Gosh, this is such a small civilization. I just don't understand how it's so small. I
mean, it's also plot convenience, but yeah.
I mean, definitely, but I guess I wanted there to be a little bit more of like any sort of cohesive message of the show. The show is just kind of like, I mean, it's kind of a complete mess, and the end did not do anything to make it less of a mess. It just kind of added more stuff that I'm like,
right,
like, because Jerome Morel, he didn't, I mean, now we see his ideology, but it always seemed like that was always what I thought it was, so it wasn't like a new thing. It was just like kind of stating something that I think could have probably been stated a lot earlier, because I kept thinking there was more to it than what I thought, and then it was like, okay, well, it's just exactly what I thought it was. So it seems kind of like we could have done this earlier and we could have had more time to like think about it, but they kind of wait to reveal his whole mantra until the very end, when you're like, okay, well, this is, I guess, that makes perfect sense, like, given the whole thing. So I don't know why we waited so long to do this. And then, like, I mean, like, I felt like there should have been at least some more kind of revealing things or things coming together or something. It just felt like now we have extra plot that, like, because why did they take Haniwa? And why is Kofun staying there?
That is something I couldn't really figure out. At first I thought, oh, is this just something he does every once in a while? He gets one and then he sends them away, or he sells them away. But he specifically was, oh, these are Baba Voss's kids. We have to get rid of one of them.
Right.
And it's funny because I would have assumed that he would have kept Haniwa, because Haniwa is, although she doesn't think like Jirla Morel, she is the more violent of the two.
Well,
and because
she's more sympathetic to Jirla Morel's whole thing. She's like, she kind of doesn't fully get his Yeah, she's not 100% in, but she's far more in than Kofun is. Kofun is just like,
Yep.
this is terrible. I want to
Right.
leave.
He wants to go back home.
Right.
Yep. He wants to go back to his real father and his real family and his life.
So like, is it that German Morale thinks that like he already thinks that like Honey Waz thinks the way he does, so he doesn't need to convince her as much as like it. I don't know.
I
It doesn't make sense.
Maybe he thought that she was going to make trouble once she really found out what was going on.
That could be
She
it.
was going to be the one who was going to make trouble, and Kafun was just going to be the one who was easier to subdue.
Yeah, like that she was, like that she could be more like violent theoretically, because Boots is somehow not in the compound, so and he's violent,
Right.
so maybe the
Right.
violent ones are the ones that get like pushed out, you know. But then I don't see how that's helpful, because it seems like they would then just
but
like want to come back and revolt or something.
right. Well, not if they're sold and killed,
Well, yeah.
or put into slavery, or done whatever these people are going to do with Hanewa. Because I mean, you saw all the children in his compound. They're all very subservient, and they spend their time reading books and learning and taking care of the compound, but they definitely don't spend their time coming up with plots to overthrow Jirla or questioning if his philosophies are correct.
Right, they're
Or not.
very cult member vibes. It's super, super culty.
Yep. It's a cult. It's a cult.
Yeah.
Full on cult.
Which, like, and then Paris is like, when they go to German Morale, is like, he's not a god. Like, his opinions can be, like, appealing or whatever, but, like, he isn't a god, and don't treat him like one. And
Right.
but then she like seems kind of later on, she seems very apprehensive, and like they shouldn't have left them there, sort of. But it's like, I really thought we were gonna get some insight into Paris. I was like, we know so little about her. I don't understand.
Yeah.
Her opinions are always weird, and it's very unclear what she's motivated by, or what her whole thing is. And then I was like, this is gonna be where we reveal some big thing about her that kind of gives context to all this. And no, not even remotely. She's just like does some more weird things where you're like, what? Wait,
Yeah, she just
what is your whole
tells
thing?
tells them to read the books and sends them on their way. Pretty
Right,
much.
but then she's also like, yeah, we should, when Baba Voss is like, we're gonna stay nearby, we're not abandoning them, she's like, okay, good. Or like, she doesn't even really say good, she's like, okay, and you kind of get the sense that she's like, this is good, but she doesn't even say it. Like, and so you're like, what? But it seems like you were kind of talking, like you gave them a sort of like, I mean, first of all, you said that his opinions were intriguing, which I don't know about that. They seem pretty like genocide. Like I don't see how his opinions are intriguing to me, but I don't know.
I think that might be maybe her nostalgia. She's looking at some things with nostalgic goggles, because she's the one when Baba found the books. She's the one that's like, oh my God, they have to read these books. Because my grandmother read books and she told me about books. You have the power to read them, so you should just read them and learn everything.
She said
that
her
you can.
grandmother had read books,
or it was great grandmother or something. So someone back in her family was
but
able to read
500
books.
years, that would be, they
I know.
wouldn't have been the cited, they would have been part of the same thing as Germa Morel then, so she's probably related to them.
That could very well be. She could be, I have no idea, but she could be, yeah.
Yeah, she's probably like the sister of Germa Morel or something. That's what I always thought. But then I was like, this is when they're going to reveal that.
Right, or like one of his daughters, but she was born blind or something. Yeah, I don't.
Well, yeah, that's another thing, is they seem to think that sight is a very dominant trait. Which, I mean, I guess probably it is, but then also, like, there was a disease, which I was like, wait a second, so we had a disease that blinded everyone, so, but somehow it must have encoded on their DNA entirely, because then, from then on, they had only blind children, but then at the same time, there's occasionally sight will pop back up again, and we don't know how long that's been going on for, but Germa Morel thinks he's the only one, for some reason.
Right. I mean, I think that logic is just kind of frittered away a little bit, because
Yeah.
it's like then you start talking about like evolutionary biology,
Right. It doesn't have
like,
any interest in understanding that whatsoever.
Nope. All these people are blind except for a few people who can't see. There you go. Ta-da.
Which is also okay, because like the assumption is that like we haven't seen a single instance of like two parents, one of them sighted 100% of the time in this show so far. Their children can see if one of the parents can see, which seems like not necessarily, that definitely doesn't have to be true. There could like if a sighted and a blind parents, you could have a blind kid. It's still possible. So, but we just haven't seen that case happen yet. So we don't know if it's impossible or if we just haven't been shown an example of that happening yet. Which is either one could be true, I guess. Like, I don't know. But it's just a weird thing, because then it's also like, if German Morale, was he in an orphanage? Like, does he not know? I mean, I don't think they even have orphanages, but did his parents die? Or like, did his, is it his dad the sighted one? Like, yeah, how did he become?
Right. How did he gain sight? Yeah.
Right. Like, that's completely unclear. And given the fact, the assumption that sighted people or having sighted people, like, then was he born to blind parents and somehow sighted, and then like, could that happen in other situations then? Because then really anyone could wind up having a sighted child.
Or there's these weird, like, very tiny colonies or pockets of sighted people around the country that just send someone out every couple of 100 years to go make some babies, go make some sighted babies, and then start little colonies of their own. I have no idea. I'm just guessing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird, because it's like, I think also, like, thinking about if, like, the comparison of like blindness in this world is basically sighted, like that it's flip from the real world. But then at the same time, I was like, this is just, that metaphor feels like at a certain point it breaks apart, because the sighted people, the way they think about sight is so, like, there's just no analogous blind person for the way, like, the German Morale thinks about sight. Like, he's coming from such a privileged position that it just seems very unnatural for a blind person to, I don't think, like, I mean, I'm very pro blindness, and I think I'm very against like weeding blindness out of the gene pool. I think that's horrible. And I don't even think we really need to find cures for blindness. I think those, that seems kind of silly to me, or not just silly, but I don't know. I don't think it's a very worthwhile endeavor, but I still don't think every single person should be blind. Like, that's not my opinion. Like,
that's not,
So I feel like there's just no like, the only German Morale has an abled person's perspective on on disability. He is just coming from an able perspective. So it's not like this, sighted people are blind people in this world. It's like, no, sighted people are sighted people in this world. They just really have no right to be sighted people the way they are. Like, a sighted person who's a minority, how are they then a eugenicist as well? It's like, it seems so ridiculous to me that they would, like,
well, he's a very it's black and white, and he's very much, the bad guy. But I think the one thing I like about this show is, Gerla Morel is like, sight is superior and sight is better, and he's really a bad guy. But we don't we also have blind people who aren't good people either. I mean, Queen Kane is a psychopath.
Yeah, well, I mean, so few of the characters are good people, really.
Not true.
There's only like 3 good people in the show. I mean, there's maybe slightly more than that, but not much more. I mean, I think that, like, but that's the thing, is there are so many blind characters that are really terrible. But then, like, it's also like the sighted or the blind characters, like, lose their shit about sight when you actually get down to it, it's like they're all harboring this like love of sightedness in a weird way. I feel like, in a way that I'm just like, no, what? Like you were correct from the beginning. No, a blind colony would not be happy about the idea of sight coming back into it. Like I feel like, and you find out that so many of the characters are just wanting to have sighted children. Like that's like so many characters. It just seems like,
well, yeah, because
ridiculous.
they see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they see sighted kids as being able, as a way to move up in the world,
but it's
to have an advantage over someone.
Yeah,
to
which
gain
is
more power.
so stupid because their entire world is built off blindness. So why would that be true? Why would they have any sort of sense that sightedness is better? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean that's why Baba Voss is the good character, is such a good character, because he loves his children. For even though they're sighted, and he would never use their sightedness to get more power, because he doesn't want that. He's content living with the Alchemy and living in the world that he's living in. He's going on this adventure because he must.
Yeah,
but he was just fine with the way he was.
Yeah, his character is definitely the most relatable. He always seems far more rational. Like when they're saying goodbye, and he's like, "Well, I'm supposed to protect you until you're an adult, and now you're supposed to like do your own path," which I guess he kind of undercuts later on. But I'm like, yeah, that seems like decent parenting to me. You have to know when to let go.
Yeah, I mean, he literally says there are some bridges that you have to cross alone.
Yeah.
I can't cross with you. Yeah.
In the dark, also, so you can't really see what's happening because it's a very dark shot when they're crossing the bridge. But yeah, and then he, like, what was the other thing that he was saying about? Oh, well, like, was it Kofun who said something about them living in two different worlds? Because that seems more like a Haniwa thing in my head.
I know what part you're talking about. Oh,
I think
God,
it probably was
that?
Haniwa.
I think it was Haniwa too.
Who's like, we grew up in, we live in completely different worlds. And I was like, no, you don't. Like, you're a family. No. What are you talking about? And then Baba Voss is like, we didn't. So I was like, okay, it's a sensible character. Thank you. Like someone being rational. Yes. I mean, it's so silly, the idea that because I thought like, like you can like have close relationships and love people who are sighted, like that seems like so it's so problematic for whoever's in the minority to think that way. Just kind of like, I don't know, it made me really sad to think that that's what these characters are thinking, is that they're like living in a different world. And like also it feels like Baba Voss has tried so hard to make that so they don't feel that way. Like, so I'm like, how has that not worked at all? Like,
well, and he's loved them and praised them for their abilities. Not saying like, oh, good job, you're better than everyone, but acknowledging that, oh yeah, Haniwa can shoot a bow and arrow. You can do what I can't do. Let's work together.
Right. And like also, but at the same time, I feel like he's like he strikes that balance of like both giving them a strong sense of like self-esteem while also like, limit, like being, more not coming down on them, but like when like Haniwa says things that are problematic, I feel like he does push back on those things as well. Like, I think that he tries very hard to strike the balance of like, blind people are equally valuable as sighted people, and like kind of giving them that sense of like, not being too good for the world, but also not feeling like there's something wrong with them. And like, that's,
right.
And like, good on him, but it just doesn't seem to be working.
Well, and he's been the parent who has come to save them multiple times.
Yeah.
The times that they've gotten kidnapped or trapped or whatever. It's Baba who jumps in and is the first one to save them. I mean, Kofun was basically going to die. He was taken out back. Executed.
Right, yeah. Which at the house. So extreme, because that's near the end of the episode. Yeah,
that was terrifying.
They're about to kill Kofun, and then we hear like blood, or not blood. That doesn't. We don't hear blood. We hear something where they're getting shot, but it's like they have, wait, was it with arrows that they like the, because if
Well,
it's
so
just, yeah,
so he kneels down. They push Kafun down, and they have the gun to his head. And then the music is there, but the atmospheric sound is very blurred out. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't figure out what it was at first, because you just see like splatter, and I was like, is it rain? Like what's going on? And then luckily the audio description kicks in, and it's like, oh, two torrents of blood fly over Kafun's head as Baba Voss comes in, and then the camera pans over, and there's Baba Voss kneeling in front of him. Yeah.
Oh, so does
like
he
Baba
stab them?
Yes, I think that's what happens. Baba comes in with his giant knife.
That makes
and
more sense.
Stabs the shit out of him.
Yeah. So then like there's two of them too. So it is kind of, but I guess only one of them has a gun though. So
yeah, just the one.
Yeah, I guess you would, if you could only do one at a time, that would at least go for the one with the gun. But I mean, I guess he wouldn't necessarily know which one has a gun.
Right.
But yeah.
But he knows what a gun is, because in the fight in the library, Gerald Morel's like, I have a gun, ha 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 ha. And Baba's
I know what a gun is.
Yeah, a gun is a weapon for someone without balls. And
yeah,
I'm just like,
oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yes, go
Baba Voss was like, had all of the lines of like, fuck yeah, someone being a sensible human being over here. I'm very, very much enjoying like him being just like, oh good, there's a human who's like actually thinking in this show. It's not just a bunch of like stupid people.
Yes, he is by far my favorite thing about this show. He is what sold me on this show. Well, that and the fact that everybody is black.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
So I adore Jason Momoa, but yeah, his character is also awesome.
Yeah, his character feels also just sometimes I'm like, you're too good for this entire world. Like just everyone has the most ridiculous beliefs that seem so toxic and problematic, and like just do really problematic things, and like he's just like, yeah, I'm I am I adopted kids basically, but I'm going to be a very like healthy, decent father to them. I don't like violence, but I will do it to, like, sometimes it's to save his people sometimes, but it's really, I think it's slightly more complicated by like he like is he like kills slavers or whatever. I mean, like he generally tries to have some sort of moral compass about it. I mean, just watching the show, I want to just stab Queen Kane, so I mean, like, I can't say that it's completely amoral to like violence in this show. Sometimes you're like, yeah, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. And I for one, am looking forward to meeting Baba Voss's brother, because I want to know more about their family. I mean, Baba Voss is incredible. He has either gone through an extreme amount of trauma, or I don't know, something to make him the way he is.
Well, because his dad was a slaver.
Right. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah. So, yeah.
Was it his brother who, like, did we already meet his brother? Because if did the audio descriptions say it was his brother? I missed it, so maybe it was.
No, I think the audio description says his name once, says his character's name once. It was something Boss, but I didn't catch it. And then I think Jurla or somebody says, that's Baba Boss's brother.
Oh, okay. I see. So it's established in the episode. It's not like this character is coming back from a previous scene.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I've never seen this character before. Yeah. And Baba doesn't know that his brother took Hanewa, because Kafun doesn't know who took Hanewa. So all he knows is that she was taken.
Right. So then we have to wait probably like 4 episodes for that to like be revealed in an annoying way.
They're on the cliff right outside the city at the end of this episode. So who knows? We might have to jump back to the royal family and see what's happening over there. But
yeah, maybe it'll be only a couple episodes. I mean, I'm just also like, when are they going to find out that Magra is still alive?
Oh, I know. And yeah, I like, they have to know. Oh my God, because they both think each other's dead. And it's heartbreaking.
But it's also just like, it seems like they're just kind of chilling. I mean, it's also like, I mean, I would find it so obnoxious if we had a lot of scenes of the two, like Magra being really sad they'd all died, and they being really sad she had died. I'd be like, stop, this is stupid. But I'm also just like, wow, they really got over that quickly. Not to like grief shame them, but it seems like it's not really top of mind in a way that you would think with these characters. It probably would be. I mean, they really did love each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're one of the most stable relationships I've ever seen on a television show, to be honest.
That's very depressing.
Which is amazing. Yeah, that is very depressing. But I think we will see them grieve, but they just literally have not had time, because it's always move, go to the next thing. They literally have not had time to be alone with themselves and actually process the fact that they think the other one is dead.
That's true. It still feels like it would definitely change at least the tone of things. Like, you know, there is sometimes when there's a little bit of downtime when they're like adjusting to the jail that they're living in, and they're do they talk about Magra? It's just weird. It just seems like
not really
a character that's like, because you kind of, it's hard, I think it's like hard to remember that they think the other one's dead. But also, like, doesn't Magra at the end say something about wanting to like get her family back?
Oh yeah, she's convinced that they're still alive, and she's going to get them back.
Okay, so she's just right.
They are right. Yeah, she's just right. She's smart. She's a mother, so they are going to converge on the same place, I'm guessing, in the next season.
You would think so. Can I just say the most ridiculous thing about this, though, was with Baba Voss, like, when something's going on with, like, Kofu, and they're, like, dragging him into the prison or something, and he just, like, jolts up awake, and he's like, Kofu, Haniwa, you're in danger. And I'm just like, come on, guys. It's, like, truly, like, how could he know that?
Hang on. Was it Baba Voss, or was it Paris that had that dream? Pretty sure it was Paris, but I could be wrong.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Oh, yeah, maybe. What is Paris's thing? I don't understand her.
We don't know. We don't know Paris's deal. Paris has a deal.
What if she can see, but it's not? But she can't actually see what's happening in front of her. She has like a third eye sight or something.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So we're talking like three-eyed raven type stuff. I would buy that. I think there's more to Paris than meets the eye.
Yeah. It's just really frustrating how little we have a sense of what that could be, and like how much it feels like it would maybe help the plot to have a better sense of what her whole thing is. Like, I mean, it just, sometimes when a show like keeps its cards too close to the chest for too long, I'm just like, come on, you don't actually know. Like, you're just waiting until there's something that you can think of to reveal.
Exactly. Yes.
But it feels like you don't know at this point. Like, you're just throwing shit at the wall.
Right. I don't want this to be a Lost situation, and I definitely don't want it to be a Game of Thrones situation. So, yeah, fingers crossed that they actually know and have an idea of like what the hell they're going to do. If this were the before times, we probably would have gotten the second season probably would have started in November of this year.
Yeah.
We would have been able to watch it, but we're not living in that world right now. So I don't know if there's going to start filming or if there's ever going to be a second season. Honestly, after watching these 2 episodes, I really hope there is. I really do like these characters. This is not an easy show to watch, to be, but I really do enjoy the characters. I think the world that they've set up is interesting. So, and I mean, it's for the most part, the scenery, like you said, is actually quite beautiful to look at.
Why are they in a prison? Why are the sighted people going to a prison? It makes no sense.
I think that's the metaphor.
But
think
it's
that's
not a metaphor. It's not a
metaphor's not the right word. Sorry. Not.
I think you're right. It's a metaphor, but I don't think you can't do a metaphor that makes no logical sense, given like that just doesn't really. It's just such a convenient metaphor that that you have to suspend your disbelief to the point where it definitely breaks for me that like a sighted person in a world that, first of all, it doesn't make any sense that the blind people love all this empty open space where like there's the occasional thing to trip over like constantly, and so you're like kind of in like a nightmare scenario for a blind person, whereas like I could see if they switched it like that the blind people for some they wanted to have hot running water and stuff, and so they took over a place, but they didn't know it was a prison, which would be ridiculous in a lot of ways, but would also like at least could be something, like at least you're trying. But like this, it's just like there's these landscapes that are so ideal for a sighted person, and they choose to go to a prison, like the place that is famously like sighted people would hate.
Because all Joe Morell wants to do is collect these sighted children and just lock everybody away and keep all of his knowledge for himself until he can make his move, whatever that move was going to be. I mean, Baba saw fit to take his eyes away, which was one of the yeah, it was one of the only parts where I had to like look away.
I know.
I can't deal with anything having to do with the eyes.
I know.
Yeah,
I was like, oh no, Melissa. I had my.
Oh, I know. Oh my god.
I did my Baba Voss or Paris or whoever does it with. I was like, Melissa, she's in danger.
Yes, exactly.
Eyes being poked out.
No. Can't deal. No. I mean, did he deserve it? It's very hard to be like, yeah, absolutely deserved something like that to happen to him, but. Yeah. Fine, you know what? Fuck it. Yeah, he absolutely deserved it. When Baba Voss poked out his eyes, I was happy. I was just like, ugh, he's just gonna be insufferable. I don't see how like making a eugenicist like the thing that they're trying to kill they're just a eugenicist. Like I don't have sympathy. Right. Like I don't want them to now be the disabled person. Like it's not, I don't find it exciting when a eugenicist becomes disabled. It's just like, oh good, so now now the disabled pool has some terrible people in it. Or in this case, more terrible people.
But it's just like, why? Yeah, there's so many terrible people that are. Well, I don't even know if that would. I mean, the sighted people are really the disabled one theoretically in this world. But like, like what? I don't know. I just kind of wanted him to die because I was like, dude, you're a fucking piece of shit. Like you're a eugenicist scum. I don't want you to. I just don't need you to be alive anymore.
Right. You're going around telling these women that you love them, having sex with them, and then leaving them. I mean, you're basically just using them as incubators.
Right. Specifically
for your sighted
so that
kids.
You can take over the world with your abled I mean, like, truly Hitler. This is truly Hitler.
Right. with all of your abled children that you have. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like so on. Like, I'm just like, as long as he's alive, you know, I just wanted him dead, I wanted Queen Kane dead, and I wanted Boots dead, and none of them died. I was really mad.
The only one who died is Tamaki June,
which was one of the few characters I was like, oh, I've actually started to like him a lot more as the show has gone on. Because he is not like, I don't know. I like that he was a free-thinking person. It just seems like there's not enough free-thinking people. Like, the characters either have, like, they, like, usually either have a philosophy that they just maintain for the most part throughout the whole thing. I mean, that's most of the characters. He's one of the few characters that actually changed at all.
Right.
Maybe the only character. Like, can you think of a character that's, like, super different at the end of the... I mean, I guess also Bo Lion was another one.
Yeah.
And she almost died as well. We don't even know if she's alive still. So we could have killed off the two characters that actually changed.
Right. Well, they basically just dropped her off with another tribe because Paris is like, okay, Bo Lion, take good care of yourself and take good care of her and make sure, you know, she gets better. Okay, peace out. Bye. Right. And then they leave to go rescue the kids.
Which is just like, which also could probably mean that she's just not going to be, I mean, like, because she doesn't, it's not like she needs to come back in the story, you know, because sometimes you have a character that's important that gets dropped off somewhere and you're like, oh, they'll be back, you know, but it's like, is she one of those kinds of characters? It seems like that might just be a way of just not signing the contract for another year, like, that character.
We just don't need this character anymore.
Right, that they've served their purpose, so we're just going to kind of, like, pawn them off to some, you know, weird plot thing. Like, it just doesn't seem like there'd be any good reason to bring her back, which is just kind of a shame. But I guess they could, but I don't know why they would exactly. Yeah, it's just frustrating. I wanted more characters to change. It felt like they were getting punished for changing, and you could be a fucking tyrant and an asshole and like, and then be fine. I mean, they did kill the like abusive person who's like the sweatshop owner.
Oh yeah, that guy.
But then he got killed because he had Queen Kane. as a
Right,
hostage of all the reasons to be
He didn't
killed.
get killed. Right. He didn't get killed because he was an asshole and treating people like shit
Yeah.
or running a shoddy operation. He got killed because
Because he held someone who was more of a psychopath, or like at least equally a psychopath to him, and that's the only reason he died, which is just really upsetting. Just the implications of that. I mean, it's just, this show seems so amoral in a way that's so frustrating to me. It sometimes will have characters that have terrible opinions, where it could be like, okay, like, you know, you have like in some, like Sense8, which also is a eugenicist villain, like, where you have a lot of the characters have moral opinions about, you know, like that it has a moral center of the show, and a lot of the characters are fighting for a certain, you know, like against a eugenicist like villain. But this show is not like this. It will have a eugenicist, it will have abusers, and like it has people who are abusing their power, who are being really, you know, like violent and hostile and unempathetic, and like they just kind of get away with it most of the time. Like there's never a comeuppance. It's almost like the world is just saying, yeah, this is like the way to survive. Like it really, that's what it feels like, because half the time, if there's a violent character that then changes, then they're killed. So it's just like, it's basically saying the way to go is just to be like super psychopathic and violent. And it's just like, why make a show where that's the moral of the story? Like, it's like, you don't have to have a ham-fisted moral, but it just makes it feel like, it's like, it just makes me question who's writing the show, because I'm just like, really, we're not going to add any morality to anything? Like, we're not going to reward any sort of moral things? Like, you can kill characters that we love, which I'm, you know, I don't know, I don't love that. I kind of hate when they do that, because it seems manipulative and weird, but I'm like, you can do some of that without it being so amoral. But it just feels like they just have no interest in, like, it just feels like a perspective of the world that's not even really true. I mean, you know, yeah, some people are punished for being like empathetic and compassionate, but like a lot of people are not. Like a lot of times that is a very effective way to live in the world. Like it is like just being like a psychopath does not bring you joy and happiness. Like, and it's sometimes the show feels like it's psychopathy. It's just so baffling to me. I don't understand. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe they are still holding other cards and close to their chest, and they're doling out. Yeah, this feels like a show that was written and constructed with the knowledge that they weren't just going to be canceled or only get one season, and then the show will just stop.
Interesting. Do you think that's true? Because it felt like to me, it felt like they're trying to build up the things, but they didn't really have any that great ideas. Like, I think the Magra thing, but then they were just like, okay, we're not gonna, like, even though we're really making it very hard to follow from the beginning, and like we're doling out important information very slowly so that you never fully know what's going on. But then at the same time, they also did have a lot of stuff where you really were expecting to know more about it by the end that you didn't know more about, and a lot of some of the reveals were like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, and then I don't know. I just think that, like, in the end, the last couple episodes, a lot of the stuff was just like, let's kill some characters. Like, oh, let's, you know, I guess, yeah, now we have Baba Voss's brother, but it's really like, it's really hard to understand why what's happening would be happening. It doesn't feel like that makes any sense. You know, it doesn't, you're just kind of confused. And so I just don't think they, like, have a really bad habit of ending on something that's just more confusing than it is intriguing. But maybe that's just my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like I feel as confused. I mean, this is definitely easier for me to follow than, say, Game of Thrones or something, which had many characters, so many plot lines, so just everything all over the place. We're only necessarily following two main plot lines so far. Well,
it's not that the plot is confusing looking back at the season. It's that it's confusing why they're doing so much, why they're doing what they're doing. Like, it's easy to follow, but it's confusing on why we should find any of it interesting, is I guess what I'm confused by, because I don't, like, I'm not that, I feel like they want to, like, make you come back to season 2, and I mean, I think it seems like we do have a different opinion on this, but I wanted more. I wanted something more interesting.
Gotcha.
I don't have that. I really don't. I wanted to have more questions that I wanted to find out the answer to, and I feel like I was just like, you're just adding on things, and you didn't answer the questions I wanted you to answer, and I don't really understand why any of this is happening in a way that, it feels unmotivated to me, and it felt like you had enough pieces, you could have made something that felt like the characters were acting in, a way that was internally made sense to them. And a lot of times I'm just like, what are these characters even doing? Why are they behaving this way? It's just very confusing. I just feel like they're so unmotivated by things. So many of them are just motivated by, they're evil. So it's like, okay, that's not that fun to watch. I want to watch characters that think they're doing the right thing and are doing something terrible. That's more interesting at least, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because a lot of these characters are very much, they're not cardboard cutouts, but they're not super deep either.
They're not well developed. They're pretty, there's very few characters that have a lot of dimensions to them, I feel like.
I mean, yeah. It's, and I mean, the whole thing with Jerla Morel is, if you really think about it, it's pretty contrived.
Yeah.
And, obviously, we get to the prison and we see everything, and it's like, oh, obviously he's the bad guy. He's been contorted. His ways are not
right.
He's not on the side of good.
Yeah, I think I also wanted the show to be more of a one-to-one of switching the roles so that the sighted characters felt more like blind characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the show did that. I think it it really projected abled notions onto all the characters. And I think that it didn't do the work of really thinking of, I think if it was written by blind people, it would have been a lot better. But it's they got blind consultants at the beginning, but it's just so sighted, because they're just so not thinking about the sighted character. They're thinking of the sighted characters as being relatable, and Jerma Morel is not relatable at all, but but he's kind of but if you do a one-to-one on blindness and sightedness, then you wouldn't have a Jerma Morel character, he's just such an abled character that you're still you're still putting all abledness onto the character's motivations, and then you find out all these characters are secretly think sight's great and want to have kids with Jerma Morel or whatever, and have this sort of weird fascination with sight. And so you're like, okay, so even the characters that are blind, grew up around blind people, grew up in a blind world, their sighted people are demonized, so they're not really probably spending any time thinking about what it would be like to be sighted, and it doesn't really make any sense why that would be helpful to them, and yet all of them want to be have sighted children, or are infatuated by sightedness, and it's where does that come from? It just doesn't make any sense.
I think what you said about it's being written by a bunch of sighted people. They're not really necessarily coming from the blind experience.
Definitely not. It would be so fun if we did really just make a show about blind people where the roles were reversed.
Mm-hmm.
Where you could because then you could project blindness onto either side, because you could make it you could project blindness onto all the characters that are blind, but then you could also make the sighted characters an allegory for blindness. But it just does the opposite of that. It makes all the blind characters kind of the normal. They're sighted people, but then there's also sighted people. But I mean, I guess it's called C, so I don't know what we were expecting.
Yeah.
That's on us.
It's a little on the nose.
Yeah. Which I was I don't know. I think it's also a bad name, too, because I mean, I guess, the characters see that we're following, but I'm just you made a show that's all about blind people, and you're just going to call it C. You're not even going to give you're not going to tip your hat at all to the fact that you have mostly blind characters. It just, I don't know. It's kind of the name is frustrating as well. And also just, it's not a good name. It's, sorry.
But they could have called it, darkness or something. I mean, that's even more lame.
Yeah, well, there's a show called Dark, so.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, that wouldn't have worked. Yeah.
But I mean, they could have. Yeah, I mean, it could have made it more cheeky. It just C is not even like.
But remember, I think we talked about this before. I don't necessarily think C just pertains to the vision, like the visual acuity of someone. I still think C means to be enlightened or to learn or
Right.
to have your eyes, to have your metaphorical eyes opened.
Right. Which, like, I guess, but like, I mean, it feels, I don't know. I mean, like, the show is really not about that. It's like a feudal, like, the only thing that's futuristic about it is that the characters talk about how they're in the future. Like, that's it. Like, it's basically a feudal system. Like, so there's no, and then knowledge for some reason is totally locked up and very hard to access, and there's no real passing down of like wisdom from the blind characters. So it's just about like, basically it's just it a lot of the show is just like, okay, it's like kind of how when blind people don't have access to braille or audiobooks or any sort of ways of hearing or feeling books, and we're just stuck not having the ability to read, and the world not accommodating us. Like, that's the world that they live in. And so then you have like sighted characters, and that's why it's so great to see, because they can read dumb books, and then the books that they read, they're gonna I don't know. What was the book that they reference reading in this episode, or in the last episode? I can't remember. They talk about reading something.
Off the top of my head, I can't remember.
I don't know. There's a lot of bullshit in books. I don't know if books really make you smarter necessarily. It really depends on the books you're reading.
Right. I mean, it's not about the physical vessel. It's about the knowledge contained within.
Right. Because they could be reading Mein Kampf for all we know. Like,
sure.
Probably are, honestly, giving Jeremy Morel's whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, he probably sent them Mein Kampf. But I think the big hill to overcome is a book is a book is an instrument of storage and knowledge, and an instrument of technology to store that knowledge. But it is technology that is not accessible for all people.
Right, exactly. And they don't have braille books or audiobooks. Yeah, and then then you just have the sighted people become gatekeepers. So like, I was like, if the books are if there's no braille and there's no audiobooks, burn down the library. Like, there shouldn't be books then, because then it's saying that only some people get to have this information, and there's just no scenario where that ends well.
Right, and that's going back to journalism philosophy. You are special because you have sight, therefore you deserve to see all this knowledge and to learn all of this. Which is
like the most ableist bullshit that you've ever heard. It's just so fucked up. Like, what? They're such a minority. Where do they get off being like that? For reals. Like, I just don't understand how someone who's dealt with that much oppression as they have would just have such a superiority complex when you've probably just been oppressed your whole life. It doesn't make sense to me. Like Haniwa and Kofun, I guess, are a little bit more. I mean, definitely Kofun makes more sense to me. He seems like someone who feels torn between everything.
He's well adjusted.
Yeah, he's well adjusted, but also like he's a lot more. He's more reluctant to like, the generalizations that people are, which is kind of part of being well adjusted, I guess. I feel like he has a smarter perspective on things, but like, and he's pretty non-violent. I mean, I feel like he's like the only non-violent character, basically. Like, the rest of them are just happy to be violent for when it suits them. But then he's like constantly punished for his non-violence, and he needs other people to save him. So it's like, it's not like it's ever helpful. I don't know.
In with a bang and out with a little bit of a bang.
Yeah.
As regards to these episodes.
Yeah. I mean, it's, yeah. it doesn't feel like we really. It doesn't feel like we completed anything. I was hoping it was going to, but it just kind of feels like the same as all the other episodes at the end. We're like, oh, what's going on? What's going to happen? It's kind of unclear. Here are problems. I don't know. But you like the show more than I do, so you, I don't know. Do you feel like you were saying earlier that you are excited to see season 2?
I am. I mean, I'm definitely not going to, put a countdown clock up or anything, but oh my God, it's here. But I am. I'm still compelled by the story. I still enjoy watching the performances, and I want to know if they get Haniwa back. I want to know if Magra finds them. I want to know what that weird ass relationship between her and Queen Kane is like, because it's going to get super weird, super fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I in this case, I think I like this a little bit more than you, but it's its own weird cup of tea.
Yeah, it does, yeah, feel very specific. I wonder what the typical, is anyone like a really big fan of the show? I feel like you're probably on the higher end of people's opinions of the show in my head, but I don't know if that's true.
I have heard, yeah, I mean, I haven't Google searched this or anything. This is just me, but God, I have heard little to no nobody talking about this show. Granted, the last episode of this first season aired like fucking December of last year, so it's been a while, but
yeah, it's been like a year now.
But I mean, this show, as far as I know, doesn't have a giant following.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it's because I can't imagine it having a giant following just in general. I mean, it's just it just is so forgettable in a lot of ways, and it has to do a bunch of world building, and it just doesn't. It just feels like the world building, no one wants to live in that world. Like, you don't want to live in that world, right?
Wow, that's a hard question. Ooh. Okay. I would like to maybe take vacation there, but probably not live
vacation
there.
Just don't die, please, if you go there. It seems like it's very easy to die.
Yeah, I'll come back.
Okay.
I mean, the world of the alchemy people and the tribe and everything would be, I think that would be the best place to be. It's such a small community, and Baba Voss is a really good leader, and
well, the community that doesn't exist anymore, basically.
That's also true. See, therein lies the rub, is we could just get wiped out from the face of the earth.
Well, yeah, I mean, they just get killed. They all get killed, so it's seems extremely unappealing to live there, because unless you're Baba Voss, you're dead, basically.
Yeah, basically. I mean, is this, we didn't have a Comic-Con this year, so, is this something that I'm going to see people cosplaying as? I don't know.
No.
I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, and you theoretically could if it was a better show, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know, it's just such a, not enough happens, too. You don't really, I just don't feel like you get a good, the characters are not super well-rounded. It's kind of, they're pretty flat characters, and then they don't really change. You don't really empathize with most of them, because most of them don't really have any sort of really
empathy.
Concrete empathy or morality. So it's there's very few characters that you can even get up the energy to care about, because so many of them are just completely unempathetic evil characters that it's just you have very few to want to at all. And so I mean, for me, I feel like I want to like a character, and I want to like part of you wants to kind of be interested in living in that world, or at least enjoy spending time in that world when you're watching the show. Like, it doesn't have to be a world you really want to live in, but it has to be something that you want to watch the show because you enjoy living in it as a show, even.
Yeah, you want to, like you said, you want to spend time there. I think in this case, this show, I look more forward to visiting the characters and not necessarily the world.
Which you would think we should, a world of all blind people. The fact that neither of us have any desire to be there, that's bad. I mean, that means you did a bad job.
Yeah. But we've only seen, 8 episodes worth of this world. I mean, if there's a second season, obviously they're going to expand on things. So who knows? Maybe.
But they're going to like expand on it like Lost expanded on it, though. They're not going to do anything interesting.
Oh, no, God, no, not that. No, please.
I really think the difference that we have is just like, I think we both tend to agree on what we've seen. We just have very different expectations for the future of the show. Like, I don't even think it's that. I mean, we have some differences, but like, I think you just have so much more faith in the show figuring its shit out than I do.
Which is so weird. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Do you think that like if they went at the same rate as the first season, do you think that you would enjoy the second season if it was the same amount of like plot building and kind of the same amount of context that we got in the first season?
Okay, no. Like I don't want another season of this. If you have ideas for characters, I want them to go somewhere. I want them to go in an arc direction. I want to know what Paris's deal is. I want to know more about Queen Kane and Magra. I want some backstory of the world, maybe. Give us some lore. Give us something. Give me something that I can hang my hat on.
Yeah,
this
I think
first season,
you're projecting a lot of good writing onto the show that I don't think it deserves.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I can't find fault in that statement. I would agree.
I mean, it's hard because I mean, given the plot, I want it to be better than it is. I think you could do an interesting thing with the plot. I think I do lose a little bit of patience with it because I mean, I didn't, to be honest, I had very little expectations that they knew where they were going. Like at the beginning, I was kind of like, it doesn't seem like they know where they're going. But if they do know where they're going, then this could be interesting. But like, I felt like it just kept being like, okay, so they really just don't know where they're going, really, because nothing that interesting's happening. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It does some things.
Right. I mean, would I recommend this to people? Maybe. On the caveat that it's super brutal, and if you're not here for that, then this might not be the show for you. But I haven't really gone, out of my way to sing praises to the rooftops.
Yeah. Yeah,
I wish I felt, more inclined to do that because this is so cool. I mean, we've never gotten to watch a show like this.
Yeah.
This is so amazing for all the representation that could happen, but yet all of the main roles pretty much are played by sighted actors. Yeah. I'm not, not saying that I don't enjoy watching Jason Momoa because I freaking do. He's charismatic as hell, but still sighted.
Yeah. And they nod. Even the audio description said that Magra nodded, and I was like, "Ugh, curse you!"
No, why are you doing that? Stop doing that. Oh,
It was funny that I think I heard an interview with the blind consultant being like, I tried to explain to them that characters would not nod. But it was like, I think I could hear like the frustration. like maybe just so that he didn't, to get the record straight. Like, I said that this is not a thing that would make any sense. And I was like, oh, thank
Stop
you.
nodding. Yeah.
But, oh God, it's just, I mean, like, and even like thinking about it from an acting perspective as a blind person, I mean, like, yeah, I would naturally nod. I could see naturally nodding in a scene. So I'll say that it's not just that they don't have like blind actors playing it, because I could naturally do that because I spend a decent amount of time with sighted people. So I'm just used to nodding, because when I'm with a sighted person, they can see that I'm nodding. So like it is a socially sensible thing for me to do. But still, I do think that like the show, it's just kind of an indication the show's doesn't feel like blindness is really in front and center. Like it always makes it seem like a plot device, and like there's really very little interrogation into what that, like, into the world. Like it feels very like non-committal about the world, and it feels like it's more about like it's way more interested in how it's like kind of barbaric, like, it's not even dystopian, because I feel like there needs to be more technology for dystopian. It's just like completely like just so primitive, and like
it's kind of like, it kind of reminds me, did you ever have to read The Giver did you ever have to listen to The Giver in school?
Well, I had to read it, so that's why I only remember some of it. I just remember hating it, but yeah.
Okay, well, it's not necessarily like The Giver, but Lois Lowry wrote some companion books in the same world. So this is a lot like Gathering Blue, which is the book that's after The Giver, because that's like the world has gone the complete opposite direction, and
everyone
they're living
color?
in a very, no one sees color, and they're living in a very like different, like proto, like all technology is shut down, and they're living in a world like C. They're living in that world, kind of.
Why is it that people think that blind people who are like innovators of technology, and so like we are so tied to like the newest technology, and like, if you want to get someone who is excited about new technology, find a blind person. Like it's such a big part of our lives. It's like, so many interviews with blind people are always like, yeah, like the newer technology is really like, all of us are so thankful to live now. Like, I think, like because we have all this access to technology that make our lives easier, and we're like just so, I think we buy into that so much, and the idea that a blind world would have no technology is just so fucking stupid. It's like, have you met a blind person? Do you know a single blind person? Because the odds of that blind person, like if you tell them that it's supposed to be like, a society with no technology, they'd be like, what? But why would there be no technology? Blind people really enjoy technology. It's like, it's a big part of our lives. It just like, why would any society of all people who, rely on technology just decide to give it up? Like, just no justification at all. Oh gosh, it's really... Yeah, I mean, I know this is like playing every time we do an episode, but it's just like, I don't understand. I mean, I just think that blind people just never write these stories, and it's always a metaphor for like ignorance, as opposed to a metaphor for like, not a metaphor, just like actually imagining a utopian universe where there's only blind people. Like, that would be interesting, but instead they're just like, well, blindness, it's like ignorance, so so it would be a terrible place to live, and a terrible society to be a part of. I don't know.
We did it though. We did it. We finished the entire first season.
Yeah.
Way to go, us.
Yes. It is. It feels like an accomplishment, definitely.
Yes.
Do you want to do our final ratings?
Oh my gosh, yeah, final ratings. Wow. Okay. Let's see. Oh, it's hard because it's like, do I just do these 2 episodes, or do I do it as a season on a whole?
Season as a whole. That's my...
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. All right. In that case, it's hard. I'm gonna give it a 150 out of 20.
Or 2150.
2150. Thank you.
Yes.
2150.
Okay.
Yikes. Because I just think for them to do something like this, it's pretty audacious, and for them to try, and yeah, I wouldn't say fail miserably, but not necessarily succeed in our eyes. There's definitely a lot of things that we changed about the show, but for just trying to do something like that, for something that's so different and out there and crazy and kind of awesome, and getting to watch that thing, I think that's awesome. I think that's quite an achievement. It makes me happy, because maybe people will see this and maybe, we're going to do this better, and we're going to change this and this.
Yeah.
Maybe, and the show is getting a few blind actors work. That's pretty cool.
There's some extras in there. If you're blind, you will not be able to see them, but they're somewhere.
But
we
they're
have
there.
to believe. Yeah.
Yep. But so that's awesome. I mean, trying to do that. I think the show is very well acted. I enjoy watching the actors, and I believe their performances. And it's really nice to see a show where more than half the cast is POC.
Is that true?
Okay,
Maybe.
well, I'm
sort of.
I'm making a speculation, but there's a lot of people of color on this show, and it's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I would say there's only a handful that are sympathetic, but then again, there's only a handful of characters that are sympathetic, so that's part of why. And I think they might all be part of the same family, it seems like, though. All the black actors seem to be part of the same family so far, except for Paris, which is why, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
So, sitting pretty at a 2150. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this may be one of our bigger divides.
Ooh, yeah.
Because I think mine has been going down, but you know what? This is our last episode of 2020, and the show's called C, so I'm just giving it a 2020. I'm done with giving it anything. I think I find it frustrating. I don't think it's a well-written show. I wish that there was more, that the characters were more well-developed, and I just think it really has done the blind characters, and just blind people, I think it's done us dirty. I think that the representation, I mean, Baba Voss is a great character, but or not a great character, but he's like just amongst like evil cardboard cutouts of humans. He is not one of them. Like, he's just a sensible human. But it's just, as a whole, a society would, the logic is completely, it just feels like blind people are so unpresent in the show. And like hearing the blind consultant talking about, talking about what he was able to contribute, you just get the sense that they're so disinterested in really actually including the blind experience. And it feels like, and I see stuff online where, I don't know, I feel like it gives credit too much to the fact that they have some extras that are blind, and that they that they had one blind consultant come in, but obviously didn't get to consult on the actual creation of the show, because the entire show is such a sighted perspective that that I think what he was able to do is they would have a not language, which also they could have just had Braille, but that would fuck with their whole idea about the plot of the show. But it doesn't actually make any sense. They would have to create a new language when there's already one that existed. But and also Braille is far more efficient than fucking not language, because the not language,
that is true,
it just makes no sense. They would have the knots are so far apart from each other, you really just would not be able to, it would each string and realistically would be a word, if that. So very stupid. I mean, I feel kind of bad because all I do is complain about the show when we talk about it.
Okay.
But But I think like, I mean, maybe I do have a higher standard. If you're going to have so many blind characters, I really expect better from a show. So it could be that I'm just setting the bar high, like, as opposed to, like, saying, like, oh, this is the show. Like, I think you come from the perspective of, like, oh, this is what the show's trying to do. So kudos for that. Whereas I'm kind of, like, being like, well, if that's what you're trying to do, fucking do it. You know, like, it's kind of a different perspective, which I think they're both probably valid. But, like, I just think the show could have been a lot better, and now it's harder to make a show that's about a blind civilization where sighted people come in, which I always thought would be an interesting plot to a show, and so I'm also pissed at them for, like, ruining like something that could have been done well if you had actually talked to blind people about it. But it's never gonna work in the world they've created, because the world they created sucks. So this very harsh words, I feel like, I feel like being especially, I don't know, I feel bad. I'm being very harsh on it, but I'm just kind of tired of it. But you know,
That's all right. I get it.
I'm happy to keep complaining about it for a second season. I really hope that the shooting was somewhat delayed, because I think I need a little bit more of a break before I'm ready for a second season. But I'm happy to watch it, if, like, you know, as long as it's not too soon that we get it. But yeah, we did it. I feel accomplished. It's like the first. This is a show that we like finished watching.
Yes,
so that I think that feels
did.
good to me. I feel good about it. It's the last episode of the year, and we're closing the book on 2020, a terrible year, the year of the sighted people. But it's also the year that this podcast started, and so you know, I think that that's kind of a cool thing, and I'm excited because the world will only get blinder until we get to 2100, and then the whole thing will be a different thing. But from now on, it's all blind people for the next 80 years. So it's more blind than it was before. So I'm excited for that.
I am very happy. I am very happy to be doing this podcast with you. I mean, this is one of the things that has literally kept me going through this horrible year.
Yeah, me too. So, that's so sweet. I feel like this is an even sweeter moment than on our Christmas. It's like the new year. It's exciting. We're closing a chapter, and I'm really excited to keep watching more movies with you, and
Me too.
And occasionally TV show episodes as well.
Yes, exactly.
So that's that. We are at least temporarily closing the book on C. We're closing the chapter or something. I don't know. We're closing the first volume. I guess that's what it is.
We're hanging up our knot ropes. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Trees somewhere.
Yeah. We're what else do they do? We're sword canes. I don't know. And then the next what are we doing next week, Sky/Melissa?
So yeah. So we got together and just were talking about what we should watch. And honestly, after such a shit year, we just want to have fun. We just want to have a good time. So we're watching Deadpool next week.
Yeah.
And you probably don't remember the blind character in Deadpool because I sure didn't. And Sky reminded me. Deadpool has a Sky remembered. Deadpool has a roommate called Blind Al who is blind.
Yeah, that's
as her title suggests.
Yeah, it's always good when you have blind in the name for no confusion.
It's perfect. It's perfect. So yeah, what the hell? We're gonna go into 2020 with freaking Deadpool, and I'm just. It's going to be fun.
Yeah,
I think it's super fun.
This is one of the few movies that we've both already seen.
Yes. Yeah.
I actually feel like Daredevil was probably, but I feel like we've probably both seen Deadpool a little bit more recently than Daredevil, so it'll be interesting.
I have an excuse to watch Deadpool in front of my parents, so that'll be fun.
That's so funny. It is really funny too, because that's when I first saw Deadpool, was when I was visiting my family for Christmas, and my mom forced me to see it. So it is very funny. It's like the other way around.
So Deadpool's officially a Christmas movie.
Yeah, which is funny because it actually, the second one, didn't they do like a Christmas release or some weird ass shit?
They did. Yeah, it's called Once Upon a Deadpool. and they trimmed all of the R stuff out so that it was PG-13. It's so stupid.
Oh my god, I think my mom saw it. It was just really bad. I mean, like, because who wouldn't be?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Maybe that's why you thought the sequel was bad. The sequel's great.
Oh, okay. Well,
Who knows? I
we'll
don't know.
see.
I don't know.
Maybe that can
We'll
be
figure it
the
out.
thing you recommend or your
There you go.
slide aside next week. But that is my transition into what is my blind aside, because I go first.
Nicely done.
Yeah, it would be probably worked better if it was your turn, because I'm now talking to myself. But whatever, I'll just talk to myself. I'm here alone, so that's kind of the vibe, I think, is just talking to myself. It's usually you're across the table from me. Okay, so my blind aside this week is it's kind of funny. It's classic Sky one. This is like an article of a little thing that my aunt and I are doing a project about, like, lighting and like for blind people, and like relating to circadian rhythms.
Oh wow. Okay. Cool.
And she had one of the things that she like had put for us to read was this long thing about how circadian rhythms work, and it is by the Lighting Research Center, and it's just like a long explanation of like how to regulate circadian rhythms and the kind of light, but it's like very accessible language, and even though sadly it doesn't, like, it talks a little bit about, like, in the context of senior care, like different lighting disability, or like not lighting disabilities, but like different types of blindness, and how lighting addresses that. But it is more just generally about circadian rhythms, but I found it super interesting. And so the it's kind of just a URL, because it's like, I was trying to Google it exactly, but it's a little bit harder. So it's just lrc.rpi.edu/healthy living is where they have the whole long thing about us lighting and circadian rhythms. But it's a really interesting thing that I've been getting into learning more about. So that's my pick for this week. What do you have, Melissa?
Okay, so actually my pick is going to be watching the news here in Wisconsin, because and I would normally never say anything like this because I get all my news through NPR, but my parents that I'm staying with, they watch the news on TV, and a couple of days ago this week we got to watch one of the first nurses in Minnesota receive the first dosage of COVID vaccine.
Oh yeah, that's exciting.
And it was really exciting, and it was a little got a little misty in the room. I mean, it just, we're not out of the woods yet, not by any stretch of the imagination, but there is light at the end of this shitty tunnel.
That's, yeah, and it's good for regulating circadian rhythms, the light.
Yeah, exactly. See, ta-da.
See, it's all see also is the show. Oh
yeah,
my god!
It's okay. It's very short and it's very sweet. But yeah, that was my blind aside this week, is getting to see the COVID vaccine going into action and actually hearing that it's working and it's having really good results. And there's a second one on the way, and I'm stoked. I can't wait till next year in the spring. I might be going back to the theater. So.
Yeah, I'm like I feel like, you know how we're all excited about, like, you know how like when people get excited about the I voted stickers. I feel like I got a vaccine is gonna be like that times 100.
Yes, I got the shot. Yeah, I got a shot.
yeah. Feel like everyone's like super stoked on it. I mean, would be very excited to get a vaccine. That'd be wonderful. But yeah, well, fingers crossed we'll get them. We'll get it soon, but yeah, I'm really glad that process is starting now. It's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy.
Nice. So I love our picks this week. We're very they're very fun. I like it. I love it. But after this is somewhat serious episode, sort of. We have next week the most silly thing we could think to do. So
I'm so excited. I can't wait to talk about Deadpool.
it's gonna be fun. You're gonna have to come back next week to find out what we say. Cliffhanger. Our theme songs by Lucia Fasano. Our YouTube is Citizen White Cane Podcast. Our Twitter is White Cane Pod. Our Instagram and our Facebook are both Citizen White Cane. And you can send us an email at citizenwhitecanepod@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voice message, there's a link in the show notes. Which character would you like to hang out with and see?
Ooh, that's a good question. Do you have a sword, Kane?
Yeah. And what would your weapon, your cane weapon be? Like, what creative weapon cane combination would you come up with in that universe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what would your weird ass C name be?
Yeah. Would you be, I don't know definitely come. And what would ours be? Tell us what ours would be as well. You can leave any of those things there's a link in the show notes to leave us a voice message. Rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. This is the end of our year of doing the podcast. It's very exciting, but please spread the word, and anyone who's interested in I don't know, blind people talking about blind things. Yeah, it's good. It's good counter programming to the world.
Yes, indeed.
Definitely. And come back next week for Deadpool. We'll see you then. Bye.
I'll see you then. Bye.
Citizen